Okay. So I see Connor's here. I think maybe he'll help me with bringing people into the main room while we start this. Okay, I hope we're waiting a little bit because it takes a while for people to connect, and we're allowing for everyone to connect in their own time. In the meantime, I'm just checking things out. People do not buy goods and services, people buy relations, stories, and magic. That is true. I think that so many things have changed in consumer behavior, where before people used to buy a product or get a service or things like that, but it is more about the experience that you get and that connection that's behind it, and people are more interested in hearing the stories of small business owners or who's that human out there. They're not robots anymore. And that is very interesting and very good. I think that it humanizes the process of owning a business. It humanizes our processes, the way that we generate wealth and all of that. So that is wonderful. I am going to start sharing my screen because it seems like most people are connected at this point. And this. I'm gonna need somebody like Nathan, will you mind allowing people in the waiting room, please? Thank you. All right. So good evening. We are here for our last session of the bootcamp. And today is about pitching your business story. And there is a reason why we call this pitching your business story and not just your business. And we're going to get to the bottom of that when Raj gives us his presentation. So remember that this session is being recorded, but the breakout sessions are not. And this is to be able to provide you guys with different ways that you can see the content of this program. And when we are done with everything, this will be posted on YouTube. So you will be able to go back to it and review the content if you feel like you missed something. We know this is very fast. You guys already know about how to behave over here using the chat when you need to ask any questions. I do monitor all of it, and I copy all of those questions as well. Just maintain an educational environment and be nice to each other. This program is funded by the Island Economic Development Council through a grant from the Washington State Department of Commerce. And our agenda for the day is our welcome. We have our featured speaker, Nathan Lilgard. He works with us in RAIN, and he's going to talk to you guys about different programs that we have to be able to access funds, to access capital. And then we go into our speaker presentation with Raj Babla. And then we go into our breakout session and our Q&A. And we'll talk about what happens after this. Now we have had a great selection of speakers in these 4 sessions. And right now we have reached the end, and Raj will close it up with our business story. So remember that in order to get an application for the grants, you have to fulfill these 3 requirements in order to get a certificate. That is attending 3 out of the 4 sessions and submitting your 2 takeaway forms. The deadline to submit everything is on February 22nd. That is next Wednesday. Remember that we're moving super fast with this. The idea is to be able to extend the grant applications on the following Monday, which I will look up what exact date that is, but it is on the Monday. So do keep that in mind so that you can submit all of those things on Wednesday. Now, with that, I have the pleasure of introducing to you to Raj, who is the founder of Young Mountain Tea. It is a business that has a social component to it. He works with farmers directly in India, and he's just a great human being, very tied to the place. He's actually working right now on opening his first factory that is farmer owned. So he just has a great personality, a great vision that he's fulfilling, and he's going to be sharing all of his knowledge with us. He used to work at Rain, and he moved on to the horizons of tea. So welcome, Raj, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can get the floor.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Ani. And hello, everybody. It's really wonderful to be here with you. As Ani said, I've worked with Rain previously, and so I've actually had the chance to listen to all three of the, actually two of the three speakers that you've already listened to in this boot camp, which really does sound like a boot camp with the speed and the intensity you've been going through. But I know that the quality of what you've received is also really excellent. So I feel glad and honored to be able to follow up the other speakers. And what we're going to be talking today is really building off of what you've already been learning about. I think Robert helped you understand a good amount about where to go for money. And Peter helped you think about how much to ask for. I don't know the third speaker as well, but it sounds like that was kind of focused around how to decide, use money to make decisions. And today what we're going to be talking about is, okay, you know where to go, you know how much you want to get and how you're going to use it, but how do you actually get the money? And whether that's for fundraising purposes or for closing on sales, the idea of a pitch or telling the story of your business is really fundamental to how the money comes to you. So with that, I will, actually, just before I share my screen, one thing I'd love to do is, I think you all maybe have some sense of each other, but I'm brand new to your group. So I'd really appreciate if in the chat, you wouldn't mind dropping, well, we got your names, but maybe the name of your business and in a word or two, a couple words, what your business does.
Excuse me, Raj. I just realized that I told you guys that Nathan was going to come in and talk to us, and I completely forgot about it.
Oh, okay.
Immediately introduce you, so I apologize for that. Do you mind if we give Nathan 5 minutes?
I would be honored to give Nathan the floor, who is a respected friend and has very important things to share with all of us.
Thank you.
Well, the agenda doesn't matter to me, Ani, but thank you, I guess. So nice to see all of you. Like I said in the chat, 111 people. So take away the RAIN staff. We're talking about 100 entrepreneurs here interested in this topic, and spending your dinner hour with us to learn more about business. That's awesome. So Ani, did you want me to use slides? Because I would need to find those and bring those up. I could just talk about what I'm going to do.
You're welcome to talk about it.
Okay, cool. So my job at RAIN is Capital Access Director, and that's a fancy way of saying I help businesses that we help find capital. So my job is to talk to any of you and all of the people we talk to in Oregon through all of our different programs and help them figure out what type of capital might be best for them. So sort of a personal consultant, with the same information that you got from Robert and Peter, and I don't remember who the other speaker was, but those topics, and really help you think about how, when, and how much specifically. And the programs that I'm most focused on are crowdfunding program, where you would take your business, like Young Mountain Tea, for example. I'll just use Raj's business because I know it well. And you might launch a campaign similar to a Kickstarter campaign, if you're all familiar with that. And in that campaign, rather than pitching your product, where people would pre-purchase your product and or service, you would be pitching your company as an investment opportunity, right? And that's a way where you can actually bring in either equity investors or lenders to gather capital to to execute on your business plan. And the two ways that you can do that, there's a debt program where you can basically get a loan from the crowd, if you will, where people might contribute 100 or 250 or $1,000 to your business in the form of a loan, and they get paid back over time. Or you can do equity, where you might go out and get, people might invest 250 or 1,000 or tens of thousands of dollars if they wanted to into your company, and they would then be shareholders in your business. This is all facilitated through a platform called Republic. They're a company that manages this platform, and my job is to help companies in the RAIN ecosystem decide if that funding source is right for them, and then help them prepare for that process. And it's a process, right? It's just like any selling you're going to do. You have to have your reason, your triggers to action, like get people to understand what you're all about, etc. So I will put in the chat a file that explains this in a lot more detail and gives you sort of the basics of some of the questions. But that's part of my job, is to help companies that RAIN helps think about this as a capital access process. The other side to my role, which is just beginning, is that RAIN has a project funded by the US EDA, Economic Development Administration, to partner with a venture capital fund in Portland, Oregon, called the Portland Seed Fund. And they make investments in all sorts of companies. And their investment thesis is really to make lots of small investments and see who survives and thrives. And we are working with them to help find scalable technology companies specifically run by BIPOC, people of color, and female founders, right? So if you fit that mold, BIPOC or a female founder of a scalable, what you think is a scalable tech company, we are here to help with that. The EDA has specifically said we want to encourage sort of underrepresented communities to go out and grow their businesses more, and that's part of my job. So I'll drop some information in the chat, a file that you can look at your leisure that explains more about RAINcap, which is that crowdfunding program, and then also the Capital Challenge, which is with the Portland Seed Fund. I don't have a one-pager on that, but there'll be more information that comes out. And as you are now in our ecosystem, you will most likely learn about it. So that's all I've got to share. Thank you, Ani. And I will put my email address and phone number are in that file that I will put in the chat here in just a second. And then you'll be able to reach out to me with any questions.
Thank you, Nathan.
You're
And
welcome.
now we go back to Rash. Thank you for the flexibility, everyone.
All right. Well, just to say the programs that Nathan and RAIN have created to support your businesses really are incredible. And I hope that if these are, of interest and would help you grow, that you will take advantage of them. Okay. And thanks also for everybody for dropping in the chat what your business is. It's really exciting to see such a diversity of companies. It looks like many folks are somehow selling something that end consumers would buy, which is what I'm familiar with. So hopefully this will be relevant. And whether or not you're actually trying to go raise some money, like whether you're not trying to go to a bank to secure a loan or seek equity investment to help scale your business, or if it's just to know how to talk about your business more comfortably in a group of friends, the same skills apply. And so let's move in then. Let's jump in. And once I start sharing my screen, I'm going to be unable to also keep track of the chat. So Ani, I hope that you and other folks on the team will help kind of pull anything out that feels like it should be relevant for me.
Sounds good.
All right, let's jump into this. Okay, we're starting with an activity. We need one brave soul to come off of mute and in 30 seconds or less, share a story about a business that grows out of this picture. So I'll give you a second to think about it because I recognize you're getting put on the spot. But the idea is we've got 4 lions and a cage full of humans, and there's something going on here. And in 30 seconds or less, we need somebody to tell us what's happening in a way that also connects it to a business. And of course, you can make it up, and there is no wrong attempt. Oh, excellent. Jacqueline is first up. Yeah.
I'll even do video.
Okay.
So I'm saying this as live, fresh, free-range food for your lions.
Excellent. Very nice.
As organic as we can get from the Pacific Northwest.
Free range lions eating organic humans. All right, excellent. And Melissa, looks like you're also willing to give us a story. And
Yeah.
we have kind of a description there. If you want to go in and give us a little bit of a plot to tell us why this particular group of people is here, that'd be nice too. So go for it.
Okay.
But however you want to.
So my storyline is the David Sheldrick Foundation in Kenya, who rescue orphaned elephants and other wildlife. And these are potential foster parents for these animals.
Excellent.
That actually does exist. So it's a true story.
Sounds convincing.
And I have fostered a baby elephant, so I know. So yeah, that's my story on that one. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, Olivia, one more and then yeah, bring us home.
Okay, so I'm going a little different angle. So I think this business is called Safe Safari, and this is for people who don't have the money to go to Africa to safari and or are too scared to go on a real safari. So this company built a wildlife center where people can do a safe safari in the comfort of the caged vehicle.
I love it. It's so good. That kind of reminds me of, there's something you can do. I don't know if you can still, but off the coast of San Francisco, they used to have great whites like in migratory seasons. You could go into cages and get dropped in the water with the great whites. It sounds terrifying to me, but what you're describing sounds kind of similar to that. So please join me in a round of hand for all 3 people who were brave enough to get up and speak, because the real activity that we were witnessing is the courage of getting up in front of a group and speaking. And in that process, telling a story, which is fundamentally what a pitch is. It's telling a story about your business in a way that's interesting and a little bit entertaining and stays with the people that are listening. So if there's one thing that I hope you take from today, it would be this, that pitching is essentially storytelling. And pitching doesn't, again, have to be in the form of trying to raise money or making a sale. It can be just learning how to speak about your business with a comfort level that instills confidence in your audience. And this really is fundamental to, in my experience and many others, being able to attract capital as well. And this is my friend Lisa, who's the founder and CEO of a business that runs out of Oakland. Speaking of like organic Pacific Northwesterners, she and I sell to that same audience. And she said this about, she's raised over $10 million. She shared that humans have been using stories to communicate for all of human history. We remember stories, not facts. And to do that, to tell your story, start with the why. And so you'll get the slides, and this hyperlink brings you to a TED Talk about starting with the why. And later in the breakout sessions, you'll have a chance to also figure out a little bit more about what Lisa's talking about there. But again, the punchline here, if there's one thing that you take, it is that pitching is essentially a bit of drama, a little bit of theatrics, but it's also got to be something that has substance and that you can stand behind. And so let's move in. I think this was actually dropped, a variation of this was dropped into the chat at the beginning. For me, the golden rule of talking about your business is that you're not just talking about your business, you're talking about yourself. And that's because people invest in people, not in products or ideas. If you're trying to build one of these rapidly scalable businesses, what people are taking a bet on is not how perfect your solution is, but that the team behind the idea has some strength, some credibility, some level of trust So even though they've got an interesting idea, it's probably wrong now. It'll change over time. And so the pitch is to say, can you trust me to be the one that will grow with this idea in this business as it goes? But on more fundamental day-to-day levels, this concept is the same. You know, when in services, say working with clients, a lot of times a decision is made based on a gut sense of trust. Initially, they want to know, can I feel comfortable with you taking control of whatever it might be, whether it's a financial person investing for you, if you're a construction business looking for a new contract, to talking to the people who put in the bids out and understanding them to have an understanding of you and where you're coming from and why you have competency. It's not just the quality of the construction materials and your sort of ability to design a solution to the problem. It's also you as an individual that's on really being evaluated. So remember that when you speak about your business, you're not just speaking about your business, you're representing yourself. And so bring the best version of yourself into every conversation that you're having about it. It doesn't always need to be formal. It doesn't need to be polished, but it should have some authenticity. And learn to speak with authenticity is, I think, one of the more difficult things in public settings, because we're so used to sort of like buttoning up and getting formal. But the three folks who already shared stories, I think, modeled for us pretty well what it looks like to be able to relax into a good story. Okay, and then the second golden rule is to know who you're talking to. Really understanding the other side of the conversation and catering your message to their needs and solving their problems is fundamental to a good pitch. And so, well, okay, I'm going to go back in a second. There's one story I wanted to share about that first rule, but I'll come back. Yeah, on this one, understanding deeply, or as best you can, because you're not always going to have a chance to really understand who you're talking to, but understanding what it is that drives their decisions and catering your message to appeal to them is the other fundamental part. And so, for example, I've got a tea business, as Ani was mentioning, and we work really closely with farmers in India and Nepal to make high quality teas that we import and distribute. And yeah, creating sustainable livelihoods for the farmers that we serve is the reason that I started the business, is the reason that we do what we do. However, when we're selling to different people, the degree to which that mission comes forward really varies depending on who's on the other side of the table. And so we recently got picked up by a hospital network in Portland area. The Legacy Good Samaritan Hospital is the first one. And the reason we got picked up had nothing to do with our mission, but because they were looking for zero waste solutions to help them hit sustainability goals. And they were looking for BIPOC or minority-owned businesses to bring on as vendors. So understanding that before I was in the conversation with the buyer, I adapted my message to focus less on sort of why we're doing what we're doing in India and our work to set up farmer-owned processing facilities, and much more about how the tea bags that we have are commercially compostable. And so that's all I'm saying, is understanding the audience that you're speaking to and adapting your message to them is really fundamental to the pitch being successful, because then you're actually speaking about something they care about and not just something that you want to present. So the pitch has to be adaptable. The way you present yourself has to flex and kind of contour to whatever conversation you're in. Okay, I'm going to go back because I also wanted to show, on this one, an example from my own experience that drilled this home for me, that people invest in people, not in products or ideas, or honestly, sometimes, especially early stage, even in a plan. The first $15,000 that I raised for Young Mountain was made with a handshake deal to a lender in the snack area at the back of a theater. It was a conversation where it was the third time we had met. It was a conversation where we both enjoyed each other's company. He had a sense of what I was doing and had a general sense of trust that it was going to work, more honestly than I had at that time, a confidence in the business. But he wanted to make it work because he believed in it. And he made it clear to me that this was a vote of confidence in myself and our team and much less so about how good a quality of our tea is, because like I don't drink tea, I drink coffee, so I have no idea if it's good or not. And so yeah, I can say that this really has rung true in my experience as well. Okay, so these are the 2 golden rules. You're presenting yourself, not a product or idea, and make sure you spend some time getting to know the people that you're presenting to. In terms of the mechanics of what a pitch is and how it flows, this is the kind of couple of tools that you'll need if you're going to be doing certainly fundraising, but generally talking about or spreading word about your business. The first thing is a pitch deck. This is 10 to 15 slides, similar to the deck that we're presenting right now, plus a couple of appendices, usually saved as a PDF that you'll send as an email attachment to people who might be interested in supporting your business. That's the way I think of that is it's basically like a visual version of your business plan. It's a more interesting, engaging way to tell a lot of the parts that would be in a business plan. The executive summary is a 1-page document that basically summarizes what's on offer, your business as a whole, and key facts about what kind of sector it's in, who the team is, and what their background is. There's a lot of overlap between what's in a pitch deck and an executive summary. And so if the pitch deck is sort of like a glamorous version of a business plan, the executive summary is sort of like a nice looking version of the cover letter to an application. In addition, you're going to want to have numbers, so a financial summary, usually 2 to 5 years of a profit and loss. And if your business is one that's not profitable yet, what you'll want to be able to do is demonstrate that you have a pathway to profitability. And what I mean by demonstrate that is showing the numbers that there's 1 year where your net income is not negative. And that for some of us takes a while to get. I can raise my hand and say for us, it took a handful of years. So that's okay. And that's certainly not disqualification for being able to secure money if that's what you're trying to do. But it's certainly something that you need to be able to address. And then the last thing is just a short intro. So a lot of times the way these processes work is you're going to be asking people to make introductions on your behalf. And so while they'll want to help you, they're going to want to do as little work as possible to be able to help you. So just as a courtesy to provide them with a 3 to 4 sentence summary of your business and whatever money you're trying to raise, so that they can just grab that, drop it in an email and send it along. If you have these 4 things, you're going to be well on your way to having most of the parts of what it takes to get into the deeper conversations with a lender or an investor. We're definitely going to have time for questions. So I know that not all of this is going to be relevant to everybody, or you might want to grab a piece and go into more detail on it. So I want to just do the first pass and then make sure that if you want to go deeper, we can. Okay, so now you've got the tools. And now what we need to do is just follow the old athletic adage of practice, practice, practicing. And that takes many forms. You want to practice the actual presentation of your business, like the words you will use in a variety of environments. I would start with yourself. Record yourself on your phone or on a computer and actually watch what you're saying. Watch the inflection, watch the spacing and the timing. Usually people rush when they're presenting, and usually it kind of feels like you're reading from a script. If you catch those things, try to see if there's things you can do to adjust them to make them feel more natural and conversational. But yeah, it's a lot easier to watch yourself than it is to feel comfortable presenting in groups. So I would start there. Practice the pitch just by yourself with your phone. And then take it one step out. Take it to some people that you trust to give you feedback on what worked for them and what didn't. And even if this is a 1-line sentence summary of what it is you do, even that can get workshopped in groups. One of the formats that, 2 little formats that I found is very helpful ways to get feedback from trusted people, which might be friends, they might be mentors, they might be advisors, they might be RAIN team members, is you give them your pitch and then you ask them to pitch it back to you. So they are repeating to you what they've heard and what they've understood. And a lot of times like, no, that's not what I meant at all. But whatever you think is less important than what you're hearing the other people say, because again, it's what sticks with people that we're more interested in than what you think that they should hear. So that's one. It's called a pitch back. You give your presentation, ask them to give it back to you. Another format that I found very helpful is if you give your presentation to, say, 2 people in person, and then literally physically turn your chair around and sit with your back to the 2 people and let those 2 people just talk to each other about what they heard in your presentation. So you go from being in a presenting mode to purely being in a listening, observing, absorbing mode. And yeah, when I've done that, it's really difficult because you want to break in and correct people's misunderstandings or clarify things. But really just the act of listening to other people talk about what they heard you say is incredibly valuable. So that's another place you can practice, is with trusted people in safe fail environments, which is, fail safe is the reverse. These are places that if you mess up, it's okay. It doesn't matter that much and the stakes are low. And so the idea is you use those kinds of environments for warm-ups so that when you're in the conversations that really do matter, you're not giving the presentation for the first time. You're letting muscle memory kind of kick in and help you along the way. And so for me, that was a form of farmers markets. I presented to thousands of people, many, many weeks at a time, developing just a comfort level in talking about Young Mountain Tea and about our products. I never even used flavor notes prior to being in tea. And talking about flavor is one of the more complicated things to do in a way that doesn't sound ridiculous. But it's environments where I felt comfortable that if I mess up, it didn't really matter, that I was able to kind of develop my chops. So that's another good spot to practice. And then, yeah, with other people that run businesses. So maybe other people in this cohort, people that you feel like can relate to the challenges and struggles and are going to be sympathetic because they have to do the same thing themselves. But the idea is the more you practice, the more it'll become natural and the more effective it'll become. In terms of what's actually in a pitch, it's actually pretty simple. In any version of presenting yourself, there's 3 things that you need to cover. What is the problem that you are solving? Or rather, what is the problem that your customers are facing? What is their pain point that you are in a position to resolve? What is the solution you're putting forward? How are you helping solve that problem? And then this is always the part that gets overlooked, but it's the ask. So the person that you're talking to, that you've explained your problem and solution to, what is it that you want them to do in service of you advancing your business? And that's actually surprisingly one of the harder things to do is to craft is the ask. It's not always for money. Sometimes it's for an introduction or for advice or for input or maybe a brainstorm. So it doesn't always have to be an ask of money, but the more you practice sort of saying, okay, what is the point of this conversation? What is the next step? And owning that is your responsibility to figure out, and button in the form of an ask. Hey, could you help me out by connecting me to somebody that is a food buyer for a hospital, as an example? That's it. So again, 3 parts: the problem, the solution, and the ask. Typically in most pitch decks and most presentations, these aren't equally balanced. The problem is at the beginning, the solution takes up the overwhelming majority of what we're talking about, and then the ask comes right at the end. But all 3 parts should be there to tell a complete story, and all 3 parts should be cohesive with each other. So these, if you're going to put together your pitch deck to go talk to a bank or to an investor, this is the common list of things to include. A cover slide. I won't actually read through all of these, but you can see them there. And to underline, I guess, what I was just sharing, you can see that in this format, the problem comes right at slide number 2, and the ask comes at slide number 11. Everything else that's in between is all focused on the solution. So really keep the priority on not just like what the challenges that your customers face or why you need them to give you $50,000, but what it is about what you're doing that's unique, and how if they give you support, you're going to take that support and turn it into more revenue and business to grow the company. And the other thing in this is to say, I was highlighting in green the parts that are all tied to sales and marketing, defining the target market, the target customer, competitive analysis, the go-to-market strategy, and the traction of the business. And that's to highlight that really, in a lot of these conversations, you should be talking about how the business is going to make money. And this is something that personally, as a mission-driven, business, I shied away from really having to own until I had too many conversations that didn't go anywhere because we weren't covering these points. So yeah, this is it. And I've got an example of what we did with Young Mountain that if we have time, we can cover at the end of this little presentation.
Awesome, Raj. Somebody is asking the acronyms.
Yeah.
I was gonna write them, but since you're available.
Yeah. Here you go. This is a good test. I'm glad some other folks are here. Yeah.
I can take it, Raj, if you want.
Well, how about, take it, please.
No, you first, sir.
Okay, tell me if I've got it right.
Okay.
Total addressable market. And so that's the whole ocean of opportunities. It's not everything that's you're going to be able to reach, but everything out there. Within that, and I think of these as 3 concentric circles. Within that, we have the service addressable market. Serviceable addressable. No, Nathan, you're gonna have to.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. You're right. Serviceable addressable market. And then the SOM is a segmentable attainable market. It's all in a, I put a link to an article from a blog, a business planning blog into the chat that explains this in much better detail, not off the cuff like we're doing here. But basically think about it this way. If I were to look at Raj, his business, like his total addressable market is like everybody in the world that drinks tea. Well, that's massive, right? Like that's billions of people. So you might have a SAM or a segmental addressable market, which might be all US tea drinkers, which is a smaller section of the total market, right? And his SOM or segmentable, oh man, I forget what the acronyms stand for.
Yeah.
But that would be like the place where he'll focus his business. And so it's most important when you describe the size of your market to say it's big, but here's where I'm going to focus. And I teach at the U of O, and this is what I always teach. It's like there might be 1 billion people you could sell your thing to, but you can't sell 1 billion people a thing right away. It's like you've got to start somewhere. So that article does a great job of explaining it, much better than I do at 6:30 in the evening. And but that'll take it away.
But thanks, Nathan. I've always understood same way I said at the end. Basically, there's a huge market, but you're showing focus in picking a part of the market to start in, and then you're going to grow out towards it. That's the concept. They've got some acronyms to kind of make it feel more, buttoned up. But thanks for that pitch hitting. Great. So these are the elements of pitch decking. And again, if we have time, I've got ours that we can rifle through as an example. Some other.
Okay, you have 4 tips. Okay, no, never mind. That's good.
Okay, yeah, this is just general approaches. Again, I was mentioning that this is like a little bit of theatrical skills that you're kind of putting into play. There's a little bit of the drama, or just the kind of basically the way to make it more interesting. So the first one is, if you can, use an example or a prototype of what your business does so the audience can actually experience your product or service. You can guess what I do for hours. Every time I'm pitching, I make a point to make sure to offer tea in advance of where we're going so that people can drink the tea as we're talking about it. If you're in food and beverage, it's usually pretty straightforward to do. If you're making some kind of product, if it's something that could be shipped in advance, that's, I think, a great way to let people know. Or if you have something that's a service, if you can give an example of what that looks like. My wife is a graphic designer, so she often will use examples of her design as part of her presentations. That's another good way to do it. But the idea is bring your work to life so that the people can actually see what it is you do. Number 2, save time for questions and answers and keep extra stuff in dependencies. This is actually specifically while presenting your business. Just know that a lot of times they're very contained in how long you have to go. And so don't try to cover everything, but know that you're going to have some time after you speak to go into more detail. Number 3 is the brutal reality is that a lot of times you present what you think is a complete picture, and then the person you're talking to grabs onto some random detail and just drills into it. So just don't get stumped by it. Don't get stumped by questions, and brace yourself for just about anything. When responding to questions about your business, try to keep it fairly brief. And if you don't know an answer, that's all right. You can say, oh, that's a good question. I'm going to write that down and follow up with you. Can I get your email address or a phone number or whatever it might be relative to the conversation you're in? Number 4, if you say you're going to do something, be sure to actually do it. This seems basic, but a lot of times you might find yourself committing to a bunch of things. And if you're not writing them down after the conversation, you don't do it, it doesn't really speak well. And remember that people are investing as much in the people as in the product or service. So, every interaction serves as kind of a test of this. And if you're going to be entering into a due diligence process where your business gets a much deeper review, the follow-up that you do in the pitching process is a good stage setter for what's coming next. If you're doing pitching for fundraising, know that it takes a lot of time. It's often a full-time focus. And so make sure that you're trying to manage the rest of your workload accordingly. Because even while you're raising money to grow the business itself should still be always focused to some degree on sales and generating revenue. And then the last one I bolded because I think it's probably the most important one, which is if you're raising money, raise more than you think you need and start earlier than you think you'll need to raise it. The way people say this is raise twice as much as you think you need, because you probably need more than you think, and give yourself twice as long as you think you'll need to raise it, because it always takes so much longer to actually get the check cut. But on this raise more than you think you need, I want to offer a word of caution, because no money is free. If it's a loan, you're going to be paying it back. If it's an equity investment, you're selling a portion of your business. So you want to raise more than you think you need without raising too much. And so there's this kind of window that you're operating between. And I imagine that Peter from the second session, or Nathan, or other folks on the RAIN team can help you figure that number out, because it's actually a surprisingly tricky but pretty critical thing to get right.
Raj, in your experience, about how much of a percentage, let's say, above what you consider you need, have you asked for or have you raised for?
Yeah, about 50% more than what. So we have a model that kind of spits out a number about how much we think we need. The model is never right. It's always changing and growing. So we do about 50% more than that. So, if a model says you need to raise $500,000 by October, I would say let's start raising $750,000 right now. So yeah, thanks for the question. That's a rough thing, but it depends on your business for sure. And it depends on what kind of capital you're raising.
Yeah. And I'll add to that a good plan, and you don't have to put together like hyper detailed financial plans, but just think about like a best case scenario, a worst case scenario, and then something in between, right? So if you're opening a coffee shop, like best case scenario is probably, let's say 15 customers an hour that come in. And there's probably somebody on this call that runs a coffee shop that knows exactly how this works, right? But 15 customers an hour, that's a busy little clip, like everything's good. That's best case, right? Worst case is probably like 2 customers an hour, right? So if you would want to find some sort of medium ground in there in between those two, maybe that's 8 or 9 customers an hour that you might serve, or whatever your unit of measure might be, but just have some idea of like, if things were to go really, really awesome, it would look like this. If things were to go terribly, it would look like that. And I want to be somewhere in the middle. You can then be a little bit more accurate with forecasting your need for cash and capital. But that's always a good way to think about it. It's like everybody wants to be really rosy and think everything's going to work out just fine, but rarely does it. So you want to make sure that you have planned for and thought about what like the downside might be.
That's really smart advice. Thank you, Nathan.
All right, excellent. So far we don't have any more questions related to the presentation. I know you guys still have a lot of questions about the grant. And like I have told you in every session, there's only a certain amount of information that we can share. And I know that it might be frustrating to you to not have that information right away. But we will go over what's going to happen after this educational program ends and what to expect. And that's that. All right, Raj.
Cool.
What should we do now? Do we go into the breakout session? Do you want to go over?
I've got a little bit more, but I feel like I've been talking a lot. So what I can, yeah, we can go to the breakout session, or I can share our pitch. What do you prefer?
You can continue.
All right, well, let me just skip to the punchline, and then let's move into something that's a little bit more interactive because we have that. Okay, in summary right here, what we're talking about is when you're talking about your business, when you're pitching, you are telling a story, and to view it as a story with a beginning, a middle, and end that take the form of a problem, a solution, and an ask. And while you're doing it, remember that you're not just talking about your products or your ideas, you're talking about yourself. And that's because people invest in people and not just in products or ideas. Spend your time to know your audience and spend time understanding what it is that helps drive their decisions so that you can cater your message to actually being something that they'll care about. And throughout the whole process, have a good time. Have fun with it, because enthusiasm is contagious. And often if people leave a conversation just feeling like, wow, that was a really just good conversation, I'm energized from it, it's just going to be the kind of positive vibes that help whatever it is that you're trying to do become a reality. And I know that sounds a little out there, but I'm telling you, this is true. Very good. Would you like, well, let me stop there. Yeah, I'll stop my screen share as well and give us a chance to come off mute. And then if there's time at the end, I'm happy to give our pitch, or we can transition to the breakouts depending on timing. And I'm going to defer to Ani.
Yes, so I think that we could go into the breakout activity, and then we can come back and you can go through your pitch deck and do the Q&A.
That sounds good.
How about that? Is everybody good with that? Does everybody want to see an example of Raj's pitch? Yes, we have a lot of yes. All right. That's
Now
good.
we're after the breakout.
Let's see.
Do now. Okay. We're doing it.
The breakout. So because sometimes we run out of time on the breakout, and then it's like the Q&A and stuff being a very, because I know there are going to be questions after you do your pitch. Okay. And so let's do the breakout and then we'll come back.
Sounds great.
All right. So let's. Okay. So do you want to share your screen with the breakout activity? And I will put the link here on the chat.
Sorry, say again. You'll do it on the chat?
I'm going to share the link to the one page for our breakout activity. And in the meantime, you can walk us through it.
Okay, sure. Great. Well, it's a simple activity. It's 2 parts. At the beginning, we said how the idea of telling a good story is to start with your why. This is going to be an activity to help us do that. So I'll share my screen real quick. This one pager is actually sort of created for the folks who will be facilitating with you, but it doesn't really matter. It's not like there's anything secret. There's just some text that might not feel immediately connected to what we're doing. But here we go. So this activity centers on an idea that a good pitch starts with a good story. And the best stories start with why the person pitching is really doing the work. So starting with the why is a tool to leverage your own personal narrative and life experience to unlock a shared sense of purpose among your audience. By starting with the why, you can set the stage for the how, aka the solution, and the what, aka the product or service. So to help surface these stories, you're going to break out into groups that will work through 2 self-reflection questions, and then you're going to talk about the process as a group. So the 2 questions that you'll start with are these 2 right here. Why did I start my company? and really not just like, oh, because I needed a job, or, oh, because I had the skills to do it. What was the exact moment when you committed to starting the business? What were you doing at that time? Where were you? What were you feeling? And why did you have excitement or motivation to begin your journey? So that's the first question. And second one's right here. How does my personal story connect me to my customers? So what is it about that story of starting your business that helps you understand the pains of your customers in ways that other people trying to start the same business couldn't do? So what about your lived experience brings you into contact with the issue that you're trying to solve? And so this is really looking for viewing your own story as a way that you can connect to the people that you're trying to sell your good or service to, or to raise money from. So you'll answer those two questions, and then afterwards you'll come back and just talk about the process as a group. You don't have to share your responses to those questions, but talk about the process of actually responding. But how was it? Was it easy or was it difficult? What was easy and what was difficult? And did one question feel easier to respond to than the other? And did you learn anything about yourself or your story in the process of just trying to articulate, why did I get into this in the first place? So that's it. Yeah, we'll spend 20 minutes in it, and I'll look forward to coming back after and hearing about how the process went for everyone.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to open the breakout rooms, and then we will come back. So I gotta assign a few people here that for some reason are never assigned when I do it prior to the meeting.
All right, Ani, that's just part of being a Zoom host. There's never anything that works perfectly.
Yes, these breakout rooms always have surprises, eh?
Yeah.
So let's see, Raj, I'm gonna take, I think I'm gonna put you in the one that's mostly, I believe this is the one where it has mostly people in construction.
All right.
I think that's gonna be really interesting. There you go.
And Ani, you'll pull us back out after.
Yes.
Will we get the heads up, like some 1 minute?
Yes, it gives you 1 minute to
Okay.
wrap things up.
Great.
And Nathan, I am going to send you to number 1.
Number 1.
Yes.
All right, I'll click join.
And Ani, actually, I missed the opportunity to click join. Which one am I in? I can just click
3.
my one. 3. Okay.
Shauna, you're still here. You should actually already be assigned.
Yeah, I didn't see the option to join anything.
Interesting. And actually, I don't see you here either. In the list of unassigned, you are not, but it's okay. I'll figure it out here in a bit.
Okay.
Trying to balance them out so that we have a good amount of people on each of them.
I see that, Shauna, you're in cohort 4 on the list.
Oh, okay. I think
It's the very bottom of the list on my screen anyway. You have to scroll down.
Yeah, I think that if you look to the list, it should show up. So if it's not open, the window for the breakouts, it should be in the bottom.
Yeah, Jorge Estafan, you're in cohort 3. You're also at the bottom of the list.
And then you should be able to just press join.
Oh, okay. And I'm in 4, you said?
Yes.
That's weird. I can see 1. Let's see.
Let's see, I'm just gonna try and.
There we go. I got it. Okay.
Awesome. All right, so some of you still need to click on join.
Ani, can you tell us how to do that one more time? Because I got kicked out and I
Yes.
just got back in.
Yeah, so if you click over to the bottom of your Zoom window, there are the three little dots that are close to the red dot, the red thing that says leave the meeting. And so when you click on that, you're going to have a list, and that list is going to have the breakout rooms listed there. I think it's the third one of them. And once you click there, it should show up a window, and then it's gonna, you just like look for your name and click on join.
Yeah, my screen, it's a option on the bottom of the screen. It says breakout rooms, and it's for
Forget. All right, so I was thinking that before we go through the pitch, I am just gonna show you guys the one slide that I have about what's next. And then we can just stay with the Q&A sessions and answer all of the questions that you have. So first of all, I need to bring my screen to the right place. There we go. All right, so what's next? Applications for the grant are going to be sent to people that graduate from the program on Monday, February 27, like I told you at the beginning of the class. All the information pertaining eligibility and requirements will be in that email that you will get. The window to apply is about 2 weeks. And we are going to have a committee of selections, and we're going to go through all of the applications. And I believe, Sharon, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the idea is to determine who receives grants in about 2 to 3 weeks at most. So it's a very short window. And the other thing is that you will continue to have access to all the mentors, as they are going to be hosting open Q&A sessions or office hours until the 30th. And so this is going to be weekly. We have a total of 6 mentors. So you guys have that opportunity to connect with them. And I know some of you asked me if we could provide a short bio. So I will request that from all of the mentors so that you can know them a little bit more and see how it goes. How many will be chosen for the grant? Is there a limit? Yes, there is a limit because we do not have an infinite amount of money. But it is going to be by our educational programs. So we don't really have a specific set amount of people that are going to get the grant. Is more about the specific amount of money that we have available for it. The home, and hold on, I'm trying to read the thing over here. The thing is that you will know, we will let you know, and there is a possibility if you don't get selected on this round, once we finalize all of the other educational programs, if we still have funds available, we might go back to all of those applications and choose other recipients. So it's going to be a very dynamic process. It might be like how when we got the grant to be able to provide this program. I'm going to continue to answer the questions related to the grants, and Sharon, if you can please help me out here with these questions. The questions about the grants are better answered by Sharon and the staff at the EDC. RAIN, us, we really just take care of the educational programs, and all of those processes will be refined and communicated to you as we move forward. So we can go back now to the example of the pitch and answer all of the questions, and I will go through these questions in the chat right now to see what you guys have to ask. And the floor is all yours again, Raj.
Great. Well, I'll say, yeah, grant opportunities are exciting ones. And in order to position yourself well, I'd go to golden rule number 2 and know your audience, and not just think about your business and sort of why you are the deserving recipient of this grant, But think about it, if it's the EDC that is sort of running the selection process, to put your head in the perspective of from their side, what are they looking for? And cater your message to meet their needs. And so you can probably find out from talking to Sharon or from going online a little bit more about what the goals of the grants are, and make sure that you're catering your message, not changing it, not bending it backwards to just be competitive, but rather adapting it to that you're hitting them. Well, you're able to help them advance their goals by providing the grants at all. All right, I hope that's okay that I just provided unsolicited input. I think I did that last time too, Ani.
You're good. It's good advice.
Yeah, yeah. Know the people that are making the decisions. Okay, this is the opportunity for me to practice what I preach and share our pitch. So to do that, I'll put in screen share mode. And so this really mirrors almost one for one that 12-point kind of flow that I mentioned. I'll try and giddy up through it. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on some of the details because I don't think it really matters. But what I want to just do is cover how we go through the problem, the solution, and the ask. And hopefully do it in a way that's interesting. So here we go. Thank you for the chance to join and share about our work. My name is Raj Vable, and I'm the founder of Young Mountain Tea, where we are using organic tea straight from Himalayan farmers to drive sustainable change. And to tell you the story about why I'm doing this work and why we at Young Mountain are doing this work, I want to start with a picture. And it's this one right here. This is a woman named Jamuna who was running away from a cage of 4 lions that were, sorry, I was trying to make a joke. Let me rewind. This is a picture of Jamuna. I took this picture in 2013 when I was on a Fulbright fellowship in Northern India. And I'm the descendant of 2 Indian immigrants who came to the US. And so when I was taking this picture of Jamuna 60 feet up in a tree, I got my head scratching, thinking, what is going on here? And let me tell you what's happening. This is Jamuna doing what she does every single day in order to keep her family fed. What she's doing is chopping the branches off of that living pine tree one by one. You can actually see right here that here's one of the ones that she had chopped that didn't fall all the way down. And she's doing that to collect the firewood to make meals for her family. And as I mentioned, Jamuna does this every single day. And she doesn't do it because she wants to do it. She does it because she has no choice if she's going to keep her family fed. And as the son of 2 Indian immigrants, I took this picture on a ridgeline, and holding the camera in my hand, I asked myself, what roll of the dice put me on this side of a ridgeline with the camera in my hand and Jamuna in that tree with no option she's going to keep her family fed? And what can I do with my life's work to change that situation? Young Mountain Tea fundamentally, it grew out of trying to respond to that question in this moment. And here's what we're doing. We're addressing the problem that faces Jamuna and 50 million other people like her spread across the mountains. Farmers are stuck in a vicious 3-headed cycle where urban migration is draining their villages of their youth as they leave looking for work in big cities. As those younger generations leave, the once rich farmland that's left behind becomes abandoned and slowly over time deteriorates into dirt. Climate change is leading to even drier summer conditions and wetter winters. And so as a result, this increased exposed land is triggering catastrophic landslides and floods. And we're using tea as a solution to all 3 of the problems that Jamuna and people in her village face. We're using it to make high quality tea that creates jobs, that helps reverse urban migration. We're using tea, which lives to 100 years old, to serve as an anchor crop for biodiversity and revitalizing the farmlands that are laying fallow. And finally, because tea lives to over 100 years old and is a tree, it's drinking carbon dioxide out of the air the entire time and storing its roots to actually address some of the climate impacts that their communities are facing. And this is what Young Mountain is about. We're trying to solve a social problem using a market-based solution. And we're excited to be doing this because right now there's a big problem in the US market at the same time. Right now, American consumers can't access sustainably grown tea because all the other tea companies in the US buy corporate grown tea that traces back through long chains of intermediaries to the same 6 or 7 tea estates in India. So we have this growing demand for sustainable tea as people grow into tea, coming out of looking for low caffeine alternatives to coffee or to Red Bull. And we have this rush of people entering the market right at a time where they can't get access to the teas they want. Our solution is to connect the farmers and the consumers to solve both problems simultaneously. We work directly with tea farmers in Nepal to create organic, high quality teas. And that direct relationship with the farmers allows us to meet consumers' demands for transparency and be able to deliver on stories of authentic impact for the farmers involved. Here's that Tam Sam Sam stuff we were talking about before. Our target market is Indian specialty tea in the US. So if we look at the entire wholesale market here, it's a 13.1 billion growing market. The fastest growing segment within the American tea market is the specialty segment. Within that, Indian specialty tea represents about $500 million. And so that's what we're chasing after in growing into a larger and more mass market appeal. In terms of our actual target customers, this is who we're after. We call them the artistic environmentalists. And this is actually modeled after a real customer of ours, who's an adjunct professor of environmental studies at the University of Oregon, who loves playing guitar. He likes writing poetry, and for him, nature is a church. And this is an actual quote that he said about our teas. The drinking your Nepali green pearl every morning is a ritual that feels like coming home. And we're really uniquely positioned to be able to meet Stevie's and other artistic environmentalist demand, in that we're differentiated from everybody else in the market in these 4 ways. And so this is that competitive landscape slide we were talking about. I think we got somebody off mute. Maybe you can help us out, Ani.
I got it.
Great. This is how we're actually converting this idea into an opportunity. We sell our tea through 3 ways. One is under our own brand, which is about half of the business. About a quarter of the business is in bulk to other tea companies, and then about a quarter of the business is in private label. So we package on behalf of other companies and then send them their products. This is a slide about how quickly we're growing. We're on track to, I've blanked out the numbers, but you're going to want to include some amount of traction to show that, wow, there's some excitement behind this brand as it takes the scale and launches. This is a financial slide where you drop in a summary of your profit and loss, showing increasing revenue and a clear pathway to being profitable. In terms of the team, you have, this is who we are. There's myself, this is actually old. We're 6 members now, and not all the same here, but a slide to show who you are. And then here's the ask slide. So now we've done problem, we spent most of the time on solution, and then this is the ask. We're raising XXX amount as a convertible note, and then you can put the terms of the actual fundraise here. And a very important part, if you're fundraising, is to say what you're going to use the funds for and what milestone you will reach. We used profitability as the milestone we're going to reach with the investment that we got. And that's it. So thanks for the chance to share a little bit about our work. Thanks for the chance to practice my pitch with you all. I hope that helps cover the basics of what's going on. But again, problem, solution, ask, spending most of the time on the solution and trying to make it a little bit more interesting. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. There's a great question here. Were there any make or break moments for you financially as you have developed your business?
A lot of break moments. I'm trying to make it. Financially, I mean, you know, launching a business is so much about figuring out how to grow the business while supporting yourself at the same time. And so I kind of trace a lot of the moments that I feel like we're making it with when I personally felt secure in the earlier days. We're about 10 years old now as a business. This is our 10th year. And it was really the first 5 years where a lot of the really intense up and downs felt like every single day. 5 years, which is still a long time to be doing it. But yeah, I was saying, like, initially I was working half-time somewhere else. And there was a big moment of, okay, I'm going to leave my job and go full-time into Young Mountain. That was about a year in. That was one of the bigger risks I remember in financial terms. One of the big make moments was certainly securing our first customer to buy over $100,000 from us. That felt like a huge milestone to be able to work with somebody. And it was like a tremendously scary thing to like, what? This is like 3 times larger than any customer we ever had before. So how do we do this? So that was another one. Yeah, that handshake promise in the back of a theater by the snack table to get our first 15 grand was another really significant milestone. And I think more recently, another moment that has felt like, wow, we're making something of it was at the end of last year, we were 99% of our projected revenue and 99% of our projected net profit. And just to feel like, wow, we're finally to the point where we can accurately guess where we're going to end the year. Sure, it wasn't the greatest numbers ever, but we had thought that it was going to be a little bit of a slower year, and it was. That felt really positive just to say, okay, we're getting to the point where we know how to sort of accurately predict where we're going to be. And then I guess the last thing financially is that there's something called the financial model. I think you probably covered profit and losses and maybe balance sheets and cash flow statements. A model that ties all 3 together and uses historic information as well as future-looking information, projections, is a really powerful engine for the business. And something that we only developed maybe 4 years ago. And it takes a lot of time and kind of talent to do it. So we had a financial advisor join us and coach one of the members on our team, who's our finance guy, how to build it. But getting that in place was one of the more empowering moments of feeling like, wow, we can use our own business's experience to kind of guess where we're going to be at in the future. So yeah, that's another one. And then the great moments whenever we flirt with running out of money, which is still frustratingly frequently. But that's the ropes. That's the journey.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing those moments with us. And for also sharing your pitch as well, because it really shows that you don't have to make it very complicated. You don't have to show all of this stuff. Like, what you really need to do is open it up by creating a connection. And that's why you start with why. Yep. And then from there, you can just express everything else. And I think that it's so important, like that initial connection, whether that is an investor, a lender, a customer, a person that you can collaborate with. It's just creating that connection is the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. And I can say that the 1 sentence version of the pitch, which I share when I'm not in a situation where I've got slides, is I started a company with a promise that if a co-op of farmers would grow tea, I would set up a company in the US to sell it. And there's a little bit of a story in that, right? You can kind of figure out the basics, maybe not all the details. But yeah, there's a million versions that you can use and kind of adapt to the situation you're in.
Yes, I would actually advise all of you guys to, dissect those things and like get the short version, practice that, see how people react to it. Do they get it? Did they not? Did they end up with more questions? What happens when you do that? That's why practice becomes so important. So is it okay if we ask one last question?
I'm here, yeah.
Yeah. Did you determine the maximum amount of your company you were comfortable giving up before fundraising? Or was that something that happened as you went along the fundraising journey?
Yeah, thank you, Olivia. That's a really, really good question. I had been given this advice early, and I kind of use it as ways to think about how much ownership to hold on to versus give away, sell by bringing in investment. That the founders should hold about 50% of the business. This is in the long run. 50% of the business for the founders, around 30% to investors, and about 20% to employees. 20% is pretty high in retrospect, but that was the kind of framework that I had that I kind of, as we're developing, we think, okay, we're probably going to need to raise money twice, raise equity twice. So this first round can't be all of that 30%. So we want to hold, 15% or maybe 10% for the first raise and then 20% for the second. Or maybe the reverse, 20% for the first raise and 10% for the second. But that's how we approached it, is holding a long-term vision of what we wanted, and then kind of keeping things in course. And so far, I mean, we're on track. We've done the first of our 2 equity raises, and yeah, still are well below those buckets. So yeah, that's how we've approached it.
Awesome, wonderful. And I do hope that you guys heard the part where he has said that they got somebody to like train them for their financial projections, where, there were key people in his journey that helped him get to the other stage, because that's a huge part of when you decide to be an entrepreneur. There are going to be certain moments and certain people that are going to play a role in your process, and you have to be humble enough to ask for help even when you don't think you need it, and ask for advice, and just be open to growing and evolving with it.
Thank you, Ani. I think that's the most important part of the entrepreneurial journey, is to stay humble, stay learning, and stay improving, because everything changes all the time. Obviously, the core of the business is the same, but the landscape that you're in changes, and as the business grows, so do the problems, and they change in format. And so remaining open to input has been fundamental to our approach. And I think Tani's point, really a critical thing that if you can cultivate, a really positive thing.
Wonderful. All right. I think this is such a great tone to close up this program. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being patient. Thank you for forgiving us when we had any technical difficulties. And yes, I will be sending the chat for both this session and the session before. There are always some treasures there that I know you guys appreciate. I will also be sending the links to the forms with the recordings. We couldn't process the recordings as fast this week. We did want last week to be able to offer you that first session, given the capacity issue that we had. And so, yeah, I'm going to be here for about 5 more minutes. I want to thank you, Raj, once again for being here with us, for sharing your beautiful energy and your journey, and to everyone that took the time to be here today. So thank you. Sharon, I don't know if you would like to share something with us as we move on to the next stage of this program.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, thanks everybody for coming and learning. I liked the engagement I saw. Well, I definitely like the program that RAIN put together. It's, definitely top notch. So I'm just really grateful that we got this grant and we were able to do this. We have another educational program coming up called Destination Creation Course. And then that is followed by the same RAINcap Bootcamp, but in Spanish. And so, yep, that's it. I'm just really happy you're all here, and I hope you all got a lot out of it. And we'd love to hear what you think. What are your takeaways from this? If you shoot Anya an email or me an email or somebody, tell us what you thought of this. What did you really learn from this? What was the value that you found in it? And would you like more of this in the future?
Actually, you guys can do it on the chat right here. You don't have to wait until tomorrow to send an email. You can do it right now. Tell us what you like, tell us what you didn't like. It's always important to know the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we're always evolving too. And these programs only get better because what you guys think, and where we did good and where we didn't do so well.
Ani,
Gosh, you should totally read the chat right now.
Ani, are we going to get an email from you for the takeaway questions for last night and tonight?
Yes, I send that tomorrow. Hopefully I'll have the recordings processed by the time that I send that. If not, I will send the email with the links to the takeaways, remind you that there is a deadline to be able to submit that, and that is next Wednesday, the 22nd. And then on the by the 27th, we should already have, I should have already gone through all of your guys' data so that I can see that you're fulfilled the attending 3 out of 4 sessions, or watching the recording, or going to one of the watch parties, and that you submitted your takeaway forms. And by Monday, the 27th, the ones of you that fulfill the requirements to graduate will be extended a grant application. And I think that that's that.
Can you please explain the takeaway questions? Like I've opened one set up, but how do you submit them? What's the process? It wasn't quite clear.
It's a form. You guys have the link on every single slide deck, and you click on it, and it's a form where, you know, we just ask you for your name, your email, the email that you use. Super important that is the same email that you use for your application, because that is the main thing that I use to cross-reference your application with your attendance, with your requirements, like all of that, okay? And then it just has 2 questions. So the first one just asks what funding source is right for you. And the second one is how much you think you need to raise. And then for this week's sessions, the 2 questions are, how are you going to prioritize your financial decisions from now on after the session with Carla, and to pitch your business story. And you don't have to do a whole book on how you're going to pitch your business story. You can just do that short version that Raj shared with us. That is, you know, 3 sentences, and that's it. It's very simple, very straightforward. We're not asking you guys to do any like financial projections or market research or things like that. These are things that it will be good for you to work on, but we just didn't give you guys enough time to be able to develop something like that. I have not sent the second set of questions because we are just now finishing the 4th session, but you have them on the slide decks. Every single slide deck has the link to both forms. It's only 2 forms. Let's see what else. Yes, we are going to have a whole program like this in Spanish that is going to happen at the beginning of March. No, not March, April. Let me see. I'm going through the chat just to see if I missed anything. Oh, some people say that this was the best session, Raj. Olivia, feel free to unmute yourself. What questions do you have?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So is there the form, the second submission form that we're going to do that you just described, that's separate from actually applying for the grant, correct? That will come when you send the application. So that I just want to make sure like that doesn't need to be as pristine or the fully fleshed out idea that we plan to do if we get the grant application.
Yes, and I don't believe we have like very complex questions in the grant application, right, Sharon? Like we're not really asking you guys for anything like that.
Yeah, we're asking, you know, what is the program or project you would use these funds for? How does it affect your business? And, you know, breakdown of what those expenses are.
I have a question.
Thank you.
Can somebody help us with the application in case that we don't understand it well?
Is it because Spanish is your first language?
Yeah, no, yes, kind of.
Okay. Nosotros vamos a tener este programa en español. Y la idea es poder ofrecerles ayuda en español. Entonces, si nos espera un ratito, hasta abril, nosotros decidimos que cada grupo va a tener la misma posibilidad de aplicar para los fondos. Y si necesita que su aplicación sea en español, necesitamos un poquito más de tiempo. Pero Jorge en eDesk, él habla español, entonces lo puede ayudar. And for those of you that don't speak Spanish, I was just saying that we are going to have a program in Spanish, and that we are talking about seeing if we can do the presentation, the application for the grant in Spanish. And that but we need some time to be able to define that and see if we can do it, because as we have a committee, we kind of have to take into account that there might be a language situation there. But either way, Jorge at eDesk is a Spanish speaker, and he can support you on that as
And actually, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put together a Spanish-speaking committee to review for the RAINcap Spanish applications.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
And as you know, I do speak Spanish, guys.
Gracias. Yo ya pensé que hablabas, pero no estaba segura si hablabas español.
And just so you guys have an idea, like there's limited information we can share, like I have told you. But so we created a way where we have the same amount of slots for each of the educational programs that we have. Not one person is going to receive more than one grant. And because it's not repeatable, like just because you take the other class, it doesn't mean that you're gonna like tap into it again and request more money. Because we do want to be able to give the grants to as many people as possible, but at the same time, we have limited funds. So we did create a plan to be able to provide for all of the people that are going through the educational programs. And then at the end, which is going to be in April, if we still have funds available, we will go back to all of the other applications that we rated, that, you know, and then we'll see what we can give from that point. So it's a process. It's fast, but it's slow.
Hi, Raj.
Hi, Raj. Thank you so much. You have a good evening.
Oh, good luck in your businesses. I'm cheering for you.
Thank you, you too.
Annie, tengo una última pregunta.
Ajá.
Los mentores que van a estar aquí en Oak Harbor el sábado, ¿ellos hablan español o no?
Hablan inglés, pero estoy trabajando en encontrar mentores que hablen español.
Ok, sí, porque estaba pensando asistir la que va a ir a la que va a estar el sábado, pero sí, si es posible alguien que hable español sería mucho mejor.
Ok, le aviso cuando tengamos a la persona que hable español. We are working on getting some mentors that speak Spanish so we can offer that support as well.
Maura, y yo puedo ayudar, Maura, está bien si necesita.
Maura, te puse mi correo electrónico ahí en el chat y mi número de celular. Soy Jorge, ¿ok? Y me puedes hablar o si me das el tuyo, me lo mandas y yo te hablo, ¿ok?
Ok. Gracias.
Y está bien, María, está bien, puedo ayudar. Entonces,
María.
aquí sola. Ella no estás aquí sola, puedo ayudarte.
Claro.
Gracias.
And what I think Melissa had a question, or did she already ask, or did she leave?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay,
Thank
what's up?
you, Annie.
Oh,
I just noticed in the chat that a number of people, and I had this